Join us March 23rd and 24th for the 2019 Meet the Masters of Income Property.
Let's break this down and look at some of the strengths of income property as an asset class.
I found that this event is really helpful because I'm totally a newbie to real estate investment, and so I picked up so much information.
One of the great things about it is that it's so fragmented, right? Embrace the fragmentation.
I've actually been learning a lot about tax benefits to real estate, and I've been investing actually well over 10 years now, and I learned a lot of new things today.
The other advantage of this weekend is networking. Meeting new property managers, meeting new area specialists, and seeing the product they have to offer. That changes year by year.
Register now at jasonhartman.com/masters.
Welcome to this week's edition of Flashback Friday, your opportunity to get some good review by listening to episodes from the past that Jason has handpicked to help you today in the present and propel you into the future. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show with Jason Hartman. You're about to learn a new slant on investing, some exciting techniques, and fresh new approaches to the world's most historically proven asset class that will enable you to create more wealth and freedom than you ever thought possible. Jason is a genuine self-made multimillionaire who's actually been there and done it. He's a successful investor, lender, developer, and entrepreneur who's owned properties in 11 states, had hundreds of tenants, and been involved in thousands of real estate transactions. This program will help you follow in Jason's footsteps on the road to your financial independence day. You really can do it. And now, here's your host, Jason Hartman, with the complete solution for real estate investors.
Welcome to the Creating Wealth Show, episode 909. This is your host, Jason Hartman. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had another victim come forward of the company that you've heard about before on the show, which is PIP West and PIP East, or otherwise known as Platinum Investment Properties, not affiliated with us in any way. Charles Sells, the principal of that company. So you'll hear that story in a moment. But first, we have this fantastic contest going on, and that is about your 5-year plan. And this is to win some great prizes that we have announced on the show already. And we also announced that we have Ron Paul, none other than Ron Paul, speaking at Meet the Masters of Income Property in January. So that's very exciting. And some of the prizes you can win on this 5-year plan contest are tickets, VIP tickets to Meet the Masters, which will include access to the green room where you can hang out with Ron Paul and the other speakers, have photo ops with Ron Paul and the other speakers, and also a VIP dinner in honor of Ron Paul that is a very limited size. So as I mentioned before, first prize is Meet the Masters tickets and $500 travel allowance and a Venture Alliance weekend. Second prize, Venture Alliance Mastermind, Amazon Echo. Third prize, Amazon Echo. Great prizes ranging in value from $100 to almost $4,300. Go to jasonhartman.com/contest. But we want to help you make your video and make your 5-year plan. And you know what? Even if you don't enter the contest, do this for yourself. If you make your video and you think, this is terrible, I can't show it to anybody. Sometimes I'm like that too, right? And we all are. At least you did it for yourself. You're doing this for yourself, okay? It's important to go through this exercise. So steps for the contest are just create the video, just a short video, upload it to YouTube with the tags notice that we mentioned here at jasonhartman.com/contest. And hey, good luck. You may win, okay? So I've got Elisabeth here with me. You've heard Elisabeth Embry on the show before. She's one of our clients and longtime clients and Venture Alliance Mastermind members. She is going to talk a little bit about the 5-year plan. And you might be asking, why did I invite Elisabeth on the show to talk about this during the intro portion here before we get to our guest today? And that's because Elisabeth and her husband Neil have achieved their 5-year plan. And I thought, what better person to talk to than someone who has actually done it? Elisabeth, welcome. How are you?
I'm great, Jason. Thanks for having me on.
It's good to have you on the show. And thank you so much for sharing really kind of some personal information here with our listeners. First of all, when did you first start, you or Neil, start listening to my podcast? And what was your first event? I know you've been coming to our stuff for many, many years to meet the masters and our property tours and so forth, Creating Wealth Seminar. How long ago did you get involved with us?
I think that it was the 2011 Meet the Masters.
Okay.
That was our first one. And, it was because Neil and I were looking at our annual process for doing our 5-year plan. And we'd started building our education on real estate and real estate investing because we knew we needed some alternatives to just working every day. We started listening to your podcast, and that was probably, as early as 2010.
So about 7 years ago then.
Yeah, about 7 years ago. And we started building out our plan, thinking through, gosh, what is this real estate investing going to be? How are we going to do it? And we knew we needed to get education. For me, foundational pieces for a plan are not only to just have those goals, but to have a training or education component and having mentors that can help bring you along. And Neil went to the first Meet the Masters by himself, and he was like, holy heck, this is awesome. I've met so many people. We're going to have lifelong relationships with it. I just absolutely know. And so we started planning to go to a property tour, started building more and more relationships with people. And that was really the cornerstone to our wealth building strategy, our property plan for getting our 5-year goal of getting out of the rat race and no longer having corporate jobs.
Yeah, and you've certainly achieved that. And just to give a little context, you're both in the world of technology. You've led tech teams at T-Mobile, Amazon.com, many other companies. You can mention them if you want. Neil with Microsoft, similar career orientation there. And Neil has his own company, a gaming company. How many doors do you have? How many, I don't want to say properties because some are multi-unit, so we'll go by number of units. How many units do you have?
We're selling some and we're buying some. So I think we're still at about the same number. I think 55.
55 units. Fantastic. Congratulations. So you have truly achieved your 5-year plan, and I'm so happy that we could be a part of it. So thank you. As you may know, listeners, if you've been listening for a long time, like Neil and Elizabeth for the last 7 years, you may know that Neil and Elizabeth were our first Venture Alliance Mastermind members. So I know you see the value of networking, building a team, and really kind of conditioning your minds to be around people that are doing big things. And with 55 properties and both of you leaving your corporate jobs, Neil just left Microsoft and you left T-Mobile about a little less than a year ago, I think. And so how does it feel to be financially free?
Honestly, it's a little disorienting. And for me, it's been a year and I'm, still kind of finding my groove. With Neil, it was last month that he left. And so it's really been a big change. And I was a little worried about he and I both being in the same place together all day, but it's actually working out really, really well. But it's phenomenal. And, the value of having the mastermind and having people that can help mentor you and coach you is the fact that you just don't know what you don't know. And the fear of the unknown is the worst part about starting something new. And when you're thinking about your 5-year plan, you're dreaming big, right? You're thinking about all of the possibilities, everything that you could do. The thing is, you don't know everything that could be done. You just know what you know. And then you start working down that plan and you're afraid. It is hard to buy that first property out of state. And then you go, oh, and you meet somebody and they go, oh, no, I've got 27 of them. And you're like, oh, well, okay. And it's working out for you. Okay, great. You build those relationships with people that are just a little bit further. Then you start pulling up the people that are a little bit behind you. And then you can all learn together. It's pretty cool. Yeah. But man, when you're first setting out your 5-year goals, you're like, oh, heck no. I remember we were driving back and forth from seeing my parents down the coast. And we, this is the time
and you live in Seattle, just to give it some context. You're in Seattle.
That's correct. And we were talking about, okay, now we were trying on a spreadsheet, trying to figure out how many doors would we need. I think Neil had just gone, I had just gone to the Atlanta property tour maybe in 2012, maybe 2011, 2012. And we were trying to figure out, okay, what does this look like? How many doors? And we were like on a spreadsheet. Neil was driving and I'm on a spreadsheet on my laptop trying to figure these things out. And we were like, oh my God, 50 doors. There's no way we're ever going to get to 50 doors.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah. You got 55 units. Like you said, that's fantastic. You know, this is the thing. And we as people will overestimate what we can do in a year, like our eyes are too big for our stomach, you know, and underestimate what we can do in 5 years. And it is truly amazing what people can do now. Everybody's starting in a different place. Everybody's coming into it during a different cycle in the market. And, you know, that's all understandable. And the old saying, you know, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll end up among the stars. So, hey, that ain't bad. It's never going to look exactly like you think it's going to look, right? When I was a kid growing up in crappy areas of Los Angeles, going to crappy schools. And, you know, I would visualize my life in the future as soon as I got my 4 great mentors, Dennis Whaley, Earl Nightingale, Jim Rohn, and Zig Ziglar, you know, and I really started to get my mindset for success and a good life. I envisioned a much different life when I found them at 17 than I have today. It's nothing like I thought it would be, but it's still pretty darn good, okay? You know? Remember, you're listening to Flashback Friday. Our new episodes are published every Monday and Wednesday. And so one of the things I just want to talk a little bit about, and Elisabeth, I know you're going to have some comments on this, is number one, humans are very unique. We can author our future. We can create our life. Other animals, so far as we know, can't do that. They think about proximate things, you know. My dog thinks about what's right in front of her, you know, and that's how, you know, the human animal is a very different animal because we can literally create the future through the power of our own will. We can bend the future to our design. And that's truly phenomenal. And one of the things I discovered back at, you know, age 24 is the power of visualization. Well, I actually discovered it by accident earlier, but I discovered it more intentionally at 24. And I remember studying many books on the subject, everything from like really woo-woo new agey stuff by Shakti Gawain. Maybe some of our listeners have heard of her. And program called Cyber Vision, which was a much more scientific approach to visualization. And I studied a guy named Carl Pribram, a neuroscientist at Stanford University, who was into this thing called holographic brain theory, fascinating stuff. And the bottom line of it, at least to me, seems to be that you want to visualize your future. And when I say visualize, that's almost the wrong word because there's more to it than vision. Now, you know, our vision is our most predominant sense. It's about, the experts say it's about 70% of our sensory perception is vision. Your eyes literally have brain tissue in them. They're not just, you know, another organ. There's brain tissue in your eyes. It's a very powerful sense, the vision sense. So, you know, we talk about the sixth sense and say there's just 5. No, there are 6 because equilibrium is a sense, balance. You know, to me, there are 6 senses before you get all new agey about it, right? You know, there are not 5, there are 6, right? So how will your future look? That's the biggest one. How will it feel both emotionally and physically, kinesthetically? How will it smell? How will it sound? The more precise you can get with identifying and involving all of your senses, the more powerful your future vision and your 5-year plan will be. So it's not just, you know, I mean, look, enter the contest with anything you want, listeners. Don't agonize about this. Just do it. Something, as I think Abraham Lincoln said, I'd rather see a crooked furrow than a field unplowed, okay? Better to do something imperfectly than nothing flawlessly, right? And so, you know, overcome your need for perfection. This does not need to be perfect. Do something, right? But you can make it just, I'm going to buy 3 properties a year. I'm going to buy 10 properties a year. It depends what your means are, right? Or, I'm going to have this rich sensory vision of my future life, right? So there's a lot of different ways to approach things. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that one of the points that you're really driving home that everybody should be paying attention to is you've got to record it, whether it's a document that you're writing down. We actually do a PowerPoint every year and do an updated PowerPoint because, that's how I roll. But having something recorded, it gives you a commitment, a target, a thing that you're going toward. It's hard to get anywhere unless you know where you're going. No matter how crisp it is, at least it's providing you the direction. So I'm super excited about this because, one, there's going to be a lot of really creative ideas.
Oh, yeah.
And two, everybody's going to be richer, mentally and probably fiscally richer by doing this. So that's really cool.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, Elisabeth, this is the intro for the show. I'm doing a consumer advocacy show here today, obviously, and helping our listeners avoid, losing money and getting scammed out there. So we got to get to that interview, but you got to come back on. I think we should do a whole show about this. Let's just leave the listeners with a couple more thoughts. I think one of the things you can do before doing your quick little video, and don't agonize about it, you can hold your smartphone in front of you and just do a little selfie, set it on the desk, whatever, and stand there and talk. You can do a PowerPoint like Elisabeth and switch back and forth between your face and your PowerPoint. Do whatever you want. The format doesn't matter. Write your goals on 3x5 cards and videotape them on, by holding them up like a little puppet show. It does not matter. Just do something. But one thing that will help, I think, is to just write a simple paragraph about what your life will look like in 2022. Okay? What are the things you'll have? What will you own? What will you be? Where will you live? How many properties will you have? What will your health be like? What will your relationships be like? What will you do with the freedom that you've gained by building a good real estate portfolio? What passion projects or hobbies will you take up? Are you going to do charitable work or maybe open your own foundation like I did when I sold my other company back in 2005? We all want different things in life, but there's so many things we can do to contribute, to do more, to have more, to be more, and just write it down and involve as many senses as you can. Elisabeth, one of the things you do with Neil that I think is worth mentioning before we get to our guest today is you do an annual review of your plan, right? And if you've got a family that you got to do this, maybe involve the kids or at least your significant other, your spouse. Tell us a little bit about that for a second.
Yes, I know this sounds a little decadent, but one, we don't actually want to show any profit from our real estate, so we have to make sure we're using it up from a tax purpose. And so we actually do an annual planning meeting, which we include in our taxes, in a foreign location. So we've done it in Oman as we connected it to the Dubai Venture Alliance.
Right. The Venture Alliance Mastermind went to Dubai. And I remember you guys took off and went to Oman, Jordan after the rest of us went home. Yeah.
And we were kayaking on the ocean and literally talking about our annual plan. Mm-hmm. And, we've done this in Lisbon and in Panama and many other places. But what we do is we reflect on how did the last year perform? What were we thinking how it would perform, and how did it perform? Do we need to make any corrections? Do we need to go into new markets? What have we been hearing that's interesting that's going to impact that overall 5-year plan? So we do a retrospective. We look at the past performance against our predictions, so expected versus actual. And then we reset our 5-year targets based on that information and identify if there's any short-term or longer-term course corrections that we need to do. At first, it was very difficult to build out the format and the form and all that. Now it's just part of what we do. And we do like 2 half days, really going through all this information and resetting our targets for the next 5 years.
Yeah, good stuff. Elisabeth, we got to get you back on. I think this is such an important exercise for our listeners. I'm so glad Brittany thought of it as a contest idea. We got some hefty prizes here. JasonHartman.com/contest. jasonhartman.com/contest is where you go to enter. You can post the link for your video there. You probably win, but look at, even if you don't win, you're going to win with yourself. Okay, this is for you. It's not for the contest. The contest is a little byproduct. Okay, it's a little perk, but do it for yourself. The other thing I just want to say before we get to our guest today, Elisabeth, is the importance of associations. And you and Neil have really done a good job capitalizing on that. I'm glad you've done it through our events and our mastermind group. So that's great. But, when you came to your first Meet the Masters event, maybe 6 years ago, you've seen that event grow throughout the years, and you've been to many of our property tours, Creating Wealth Seminar, etc. You're networking, you're meeting other investors, you're talking to our clients, our other clients, learning about their experiences, the good, bad, and the ugly. And hey, I'll be the first to say this is not all roses, folks. It's like a marriage. A business partnership is like a marriage. A property is like a marriage. Your real estate portfolio, you're going to get married to it. And just like a marriage to a human being, it's not always going to be fun. But, and here the single guy explains this, right? But listen, I've had relationships. My longest girlfriend was 3.5 years, okay? I like the idea of marriage. I'm into it, just got to find the one.
Just got to find the right girl. Is that on your 5-year plan, Jason?
Exactly, yeah. But it's not always going to be fun, but you grow as a person, the relationship to the person or your portfolio or your business partner or your investing partner or whatever it is, you grow through that. Like in the Khalil Gibran's great book, The Prophet, which is awesome, by the way. Everybody should read that. It's really short and quick.
It's a great book.
Isn't that awesome? Yeah. He says, I think when he talks about love, he says it's not only for your growth, but also for your pruning. Okay. And, trees need to be pruned so they can grow and be bigger and healthier. And so, when you have bumps in the road and hard times with your real estate investments, sometimes you're going to get pruned, but you'll be stronger for it. So, folks, this is a seminal thing. Believe me, you got to get your 5-year plan on video. Okay. And so this contest is way more meaningful than the contest itself. So I hope every single person listening does this, and I hope you do it and modify it throughout the years. jasonhartman.com/contest. Elisabeth, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to have you back really soon to talk more about this. This is awesome. So thank you so much, Elisabeth. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, it's my pleasure to welcome Bill Truss to the show. I've done some shows in the past about a company called PIP. It stands for Platinum Investment Properties. They go by the name PIP West as well. The principal is Charles Sells, S-E-L-L-S. I believe that I have been a victim of this company. I believe they've done me wrong with my investments. I am actually litigating a case with them now. I believe it's looking pretty good. I don't believe they have much of a case. We've also interviewed another alleged victim of theirs, Florence Hamler, on another episode that I did. Now we've got another one who reached out to me recently, and that is Bill Truss. Bill, welcome. How are you?
Fine. How are you?
Good. Where are you located? You're in Florida, I believe, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
Pembroke Pines, yes.
Pembroke Pines? Okay, fantastic. Bill, I just want to make sure that at the beginning of this interview, before we dive into your story and your case, that I once again make the overture to Charles Sells, the owner of PIP, or Platinum Investment Properties. I want to invite him again to come on the show and share his side of the story in terms of my case, your case, Florence Hamler's case, and any of the other people who have come out and claim that PIP has done them wrong and cheated them in some way or overcharged them or, whatever the claims are. So again, Charles Sells, we would be happy to have you on the show to come and tell your side of the story and rebut anything that, anybody shares, including myself on the show. That invitation stands. You're welcome to come on the show and do that. Okay, Charles? So there you go. Okay, so Bill, you told me earlier today when you reached out to us that you had invested, I believe, $100,000 with PIP after seeing them speak at an equity trust conference, and that was in about, 2013, 2014, I think you said?
Yes, it probably was 2013.
Okay.
I would say that.
Yeah. Tell us about that, what happened there. So who was the speaker? Was it Charles Sells or was it Don Fullman? Who spoke? And this was like a group setting, a public speaking engagement, right?
Yes. Don Fullman had a booth at this equity trust convention.
Mm-hmm.
I had read about what tax liens were. So I then approached Don Fullman at his booth, and we spoke briefly about his company.
And then did you see an actual presentation, like a formal presentation from either Don Fullman, Charles Sells, or somebody else?
Yes, I did. It was Don Fullman who had the presentation.
What did he say? What did he tell you? What did they claim in the presentation that you could achieve by investing with him?
Well, primarily they promoted Illinois tax liens, and they said that in Illinois there was an 18% possible return on investment in a 6-month period, and that being 36%, of course, in a year. So, well, that sort of got my ear, and I listened to what they had to say.
Yeah, that's a pretty awesome return on investment, isn't it? They even promised me higher potential returns by investing in tax liens, because not only do you get to invest in the tax lien and get that return, which is kind of an interest rate sort of return, I guess I'll call it, but you also have the potential to purchase these properties, in essence, through foreclosure at an incredible discount. And that's where it went all wrong in my case, which I've explained on the show before, and I know you heard that episode where I explained that. Okay, so you just liked that return. You invested $100,000, and was this money from your retirement account that you invested, or was it outside of your retirement account?
It was from my retirement account.
Yeah, okay, that makes it, I'd say, especially important, or especially, tragic. I hope this doesn't end up as being tragic, and, that's your retirement, so that's obviously super important to you and everybody else. And I just want to say that I believe that Equity Trust is a fine company. I think they're doing a great job in terms of the self-directed IRA business. It has nothing to do with them. I don't think this should be a reflection on them. You may feel different, and feel free to add your comments, but this was an event where PIP spoke at their event, and probably rented a booth there, and was one of the speakers, and each presenter presents their own thing. So that's not necessarily affiliated with Equity Trust in any way. Just a reminder, you're listening to Flashback Friday. Our new episodes are published every Monday and every Wednesday. What happened next after you invested $100,000?
To be, more specific, it was $99,664.71.
Okay.
Okay.
You are specific. All right.
But what happened next? There were a number of email exchanges and such, and I received a very attractive binder from PIP West.
Like a notebook, you mean, right? With
yes, right.
Okay, all right. Tell us about that. What was in there?
It gave me a map of Illinois, and it also explained the counties where I had investments: St. Clair County, Brown County, and Kankakee. I have documentation here that those properties, right now, I have control over those properties via the tax lien. So that's all that I have on that particular part of it now. Other than that, in 2013, I did receive some returns. I do not have the exact amount of returns that I have, but there were some returns that I received, and it would probably amount to something like about $28,000.
$28,000. So you invested all. We'll just round it off. Say $100,000. I mean, it's close.
Right.
Close enough. So you invested about $100,000, and you got about $28,000 back. You're saying, right?
Yeah, right.
Okay. And what happened to the rest of the money? I mean, there's still about another $72,000 plus any potential, hopefully profits. I mean, the idea of investing is you want to make a profit on your investment, not just get it back. What happened next?
After the initial redemptions of the tax liens happened, and they would have gone up through perhaps maybe 2014. This was the end of 2012 when I first started investing. So in 2014, then that's when all of the redemptions dried up. So that's the way it's been since that time. And since that time, I have communicated with them on numerous occasions, trying to find out when my redemptions would be resumed. And I have not received any information as to when they would be resumed. They did say that they would do foreclosures on these properties, but that has not netted me any returns.
Okay, so just so the listeners understand a little bit, and feel free, Bill, to just explain your understanding of this investment, but I'll give you my overview just for the listeners so they understand. Basically what happens here with tax lien or tax deed investing is when someone doesn't pay their property taxes on their property, certain municipalities offer investors the opportunity to buy the rights to that tax lien so that government agency, that municipality, can have money right away. The investor gets the opportunity to earn a return on their investment by buying that tax deed or that tax lien. And they do it in two ways. They can earn an ongoing return of, we'll call it an interest rate type return. And that's what you talked about earlier when you said the 18%. And or they can actually foreclose on the property if the property owner does not pay the lien off. Then the investor has the right to foreclose and actually own the property. And there have been some incredible stories that many of us have heard over the years about people buying really valuable property for almost nothing, for pennies on the dollar, quite literally. And that's the opportunity. So PIP, you said, recommended that you foreclose on some of the properties that you purchased the tax liens or tax deeds on, right? Did you start the foreclosure process or not?
Well, I have not been actively involved in the foreclosure process. I have spoken with some of the office managers that are at PIP, and it was my attempt to have them to give me some pointers on how this should be done. But I have not received any information on how this is actually supposed to be done.
Okay, so in my case, and on another episode I told my story, they told me to pay basically $17,000 to start foreclosure on 10 properties, and then they basically took one of the properties and retitled it to themselves. And by the way, I didn't tell this part on the case, but it came out in the litigation, in the depositions. They just took the property, from what I can understand, that was mine and kept the money. And they claimed that money was kept by them to pay fees that I owed them. Yet they had never billed me for anything that I didn't pay. There were some ongoing fees that I had paid along the way. Did you pay some additional fees and get some additional invoices along the way? I know you told me about that earlier. Tell the listeners what that's about.
Yes, I have received numerous bills, invoices from PIP, indicating that I owed administrative fees. As a matter of fact, I have one sitting here now. It's over $2,000. But they are claiming that I owe administrative fees, and I can't see why I should pay any administrative fees if I'm not getting any returns on my investment.
Mm-hmm. What are these administrative fees for? I mean, what are they claiming that's for? Why do you owe them that money?
There's numerous administrative indications, which, I don't have all that information here right now. with me.
All right, that's okay. Don't worry about it. You talked to someone else at the company, a woman, I believe. What was her name? And what did she say?
Lena Cabriani.
Lena Cabriani?
Yes.
Okay. What was your conversation with her about, and what was the upshot of that?
Well, it was, my conversation with her basically was that I really was interested in liquidating my account. She was the one who said that, well, the way to do that would be to go through the foreclosure procedure. That's what she said.
Mm-hmm. In other words, you wanted your money back. When you say liquidate the account, that's what you meant by that, right? You wanted to get
Correct.
your money back. And she said that they couldn't give you the money back, and this is a question, not a statement. They couldn't give you the money back unless you were willing to start the foreclosure process on the properties. Is that correct, or is there something else?
Well, it was basically that. And they were supposed to get back in contact with me about the foreclosure process, but I really have not heard from them, about that particular process.
Mm-hmm. How much time has gone by?
Well, I really started speaking with her about this last year.
Oh, last year. So a year has gone by and they haven't told you anything about that? Wow.
Correct, yes. And I've called at least 2 to 3 times about it.
And who did you talk to, or what happened when you called?
Mostly when I call, I speak with the same person who identifies herself as Lena Cabriani.
Okay. Have you ever spoken with Charles Sells? I know you've spoken with Don Fullman, but do you get a hold of Charles or anybody? Don has left the company, I've heard.
No, I have not spoken with Charles Sells yet. I have not spoken with him.
Do you feel that they're ignoring you? I mean, you said it's been a year. There's been no action. You've asked to liquidate, and they haven't told you about the foreclosure process. And I don't know. I mean, do you feel like they're ignoring you, or that's how I felt with my investment? I know that.
I do feel that this is a strategy that they're using to wear me down, to, in some way, I think that you alluded to, taking the properties and doing what they want to do with the property. So this may be what their strategy is. I just don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very much disappointed with what I have witnessed thus far in my interaction with them.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's not good. What would help solve the problem for you now at this point? I mean, what are you asking for?
Well, I mean, as I said, I still am showing $72,000 and a few dollars that is still supposed to be holding tax liens.
Right.
So for that amount of money, as minimum, that would be what I would expect to get as a return.
Right. Well, that's just a return of your principal. That's not a return.
That's just a return on the principal. Yeah, right.
That's not a return on investment. That's just getting your principal back, right? Yeah.
Right. And then, too, if we're talking about any interest rate paid, that amounts to quite a bit of money. By my calculations, that equals to even greater than that, which was my original investment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, wow. Okay, well, thank you for sharing your story. Is there anything else you'd like people to know about this or like to ask of PIP and Charles Sells? Anything you'd like to ask them to do? Anything else we haven't talked about?
I do not believe that this company is really focused in on doing what they said that they will do. And that is by giving a minimum, as a matter of fact, they said an average of 17%, I think it is. That was the term that they used, or the percentage they used on investments per year. I just don't believe that. I believe that they liberally take money, and they do obviously do invest, but what happens to it after that, I do not know. Mm-hmm. And so therein is questions that I have as to what I should do. I'm pretty much at a loss at this point as to what I should do to really gain access to the rest of my investment.
Yeah, right. Just to tell the listeners and clarify this a little bit, Bill, where were the tax liens you bought? Were they all in the state of Illinois, or were they in multiple states? And, you could even say which counties if you know. You may not know. I know there's a lot of different counties, but share geographically like how that works or where your investments are.
All of the tax lien properties were in the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Kankakee County, Brown County, and St. Clair County.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for sharing this story. I hope it helps. I hope that you can recover your investment and hopefully a return on your investment as well. Appreciate you reaching out to me and sharing this story. A couple other victims have come forward as well. We just got to make sure that we continue our consumer advocacy, get the word out about things. And again, PIP, Charles Sells, you're welcome to come on the show and tell your side of the story. We'd be happy to hear it. Bill, thanks again for joining us.
Okay, and thank you, sir, for calling.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.